Finding great original content was a long process. Now I use Storyrocket and quickly search through thousands of stories from around the world by genres, books, scripts, and other filters. With Storyrocket, I find exactly what I need and connect directly with the writer or agent. Become a member. It's free.
Storyrocket, the world's best platform to showcase and discover content.
I want to introduce myself. My name is Anna Benitez. I'm a producer. I'm also an author, and I am your host tonight with someone that I love so much. Her name is Danielle Van. Danielle, how are you? Live from Houston, Texas tonight.
I'm very well. How are you in Miami, Florida? You are. We do have an amazing show tonight. Not only do we have an extremely special guest, but we have three authors that have worked so hard. And I think we really just want to get right to it, because tonight is not only about learning, but also about seeing our authors in action.
Yes, and all of you, if this is your first time on a Storyrocket Live, this is how we bring value to the table for free. This is where we train you. This is where we motivate you. This is where we pitch. This is where we bring execs to the table to speak to us about anything that's important to you to get ahead and succeed in your career from books to screen. So without further ado, we always start with a quote, and the quote today actually comes from our guest.
Yes, and I'm gonna give you the chance to introduce her, but I do want to give you the quote because I love it so much. You can't push on a pool door and expect it to open. If that doesn't describe the publishing world as a whole, I don't know what is. I love that quote so much, and you're going to get to meet that very special person that wrote that quote in just a few minutes.
Well, I think actually now, how about now?
Now?
Yeah. So let's bring her on. So her name is Jessica Reino. She's a literary agent, and she's with the Metamorphosis Literary Agency. She is a very special guest tonight, especially to Danielle. Danielle, please cue us in.
Yes, so I joined Metamorphosis not too long ago. I've been really fortunate in my career to have several agents. And you know what? I have yet to meet an agent that is so forward thinking, so quick in her action, so desirable to see her clients move forward, and really will communicate at any time. She's just really amazing. And tonight, I said, I have this crazy idea. I'd love for you to come on Storyrocket Live. And I really want to talk about something that I know you have a great desire to teach people, and that is how to write a query letter. And Jessica said she would do it. So let's bring her on.
That is amazing. That is amazing. All the people that we've brought on board to Storyrocket Live, they're such high quality people, not only on their professional life, but also on their personal life. And we love that. So we're going to do a formal introduction.
Yeah.
So here it goes. And I'm going to have to read because it's a little long. So as we said, Jessica's a literary agent with Metamorphosis Literary Agency. And she's worked for many years as a freelance substantive editor, and also is a multi-genre author herself. So yes, she knows exactly what all of you are going through tonight, and actually every single day. We're going to talk more a little bit about that a little bit later. So it comes to no surprise that Jessica has a wide variety of tastes when it comes to storytelling. She's a member of the SCBWI of New England, which is the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. She's also the Women's Fiction. She's also part of the Women's Fiction Writers Association, where she was a webinar program leader, and also the Editorial Freelancer Association. She was part of that. She's been a contributor for the Children's Writers Guild online magazine, as well as a reviewer for Story Monsters Inc. And I know a lot of you follow Story Monster. She also serves as an author coach and a freelance editor with Pandamoon Publishing. On her free time, yes.
She doesn't have any. She does not have any.
It sounds like us, right? That's exactly.
Yes.
She's been, on her free time, she runs a monthly Twitter chat, and you could get that on the hashtag The Writer's Den, which inspired her new book titled, you guessed it, The Writer's Zen.
Yes.
And this is with Panda Moon Publishing. Her book is based on her Twitter chats, and it's an overview of the publishing process to help people decide on how they want to proceed as a writer.
Yes.
Jessica says that it's basically a writing conference in a book. Too bad, Jessica, I'm a producer because I'd be your number one fan there. So Jessica is looking for manuscripts that are well written with a strong voice in order to make that emotional connection. So without further ado, she's an author, a reviewer, an editor, an author's coach, a contributor, and a program leader. And we're so happy and so privileged to have her tonight. So welcome our special guest, Jessica Reino.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi, everyone. Hello. What an introduction. Thank you. I'm so happy to be on.
You deserve it because you are literally the best literary agent there is. We love you. We love you. We love you.
Thank you so much for all the work you've done on behalf of all our members to get them really to
My pleasure.
quickly, Jessica, unless you want to say something that, you know, just to kind of introduce this, what you're going to talk about.
Sure. So I know Danielle and I had talked about what I would like to talk about. I enjoy talking. I love working with authors. I could go on and on about anything, but I think the most important thing is how to write a query that demands attention, right? Because you can't get anywhere unless you have that query letter in front of you. And what I have learned as an author myself, as well as reading hundreds of queries a day, sending them out as an agent to editors, is that, you know, it really is just a breakdown of your entire work. So a lot of authors, you know, when you're first starting out, you're a little apprehensive about the whole query process, but it really just boils down to tone, pacing, narrative voice, theme, story structure, stakes, and I want to exclamation point on stakes, because that is honestly so important, and that's really your building block and your foundation. So you want that in your story, but you also want that in your query letter, and that needs to be reflective in your query letter, because there are so many amazing stories out there. So I honestly wish I could represent so many, but you do need that, you know, that special something to get it ahead in that query pile. So that's what we're going to talk about.
Well, I love you already, Jessica. You're not representing me, but I love you already. I love that.
I love you guys.
That energy is infectious. All right. So you created a PowerPoint for us, and we're going to start that off.
Sure.
And so it goes like this. Hopefully we can cue it up.
I want to say to everybody that's out there too, grab your pen, grab your paper. If you haven't written a query letter, this is really the formula of how to do it. And I think Jessica will tell you, I mean, she knows immediately off the top of the, you know, the first line, whether it's going to work or not. And so really get your pen and paper right now.
Okay, so here we go. The first slide is up, how to write a query that demands attention. And let's go to the second slide because we're going to get going.
Sure.
As you were saying, Jessica, tone, pacing, narrative voice, theme, story structure, and stakes. So we're going to start with the first one. So we'll go on to the next slide, and you let us know when you would like the next slide. Go ahead, Bianca, give us our next slide.
Perfect.
So,
So, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
can you see that? Can you see that? I just want to make sure you see it.
Yep, that's perfect. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, we all know what tone is, but tone is the attitude or feeling in your story. So that works for nonfiction as well as fiction. In nonfiction, it's coming from the author and the author's expertise. For fiction, that would be coming from a character or multiple characters, depending on the point of view in the story. So you really want to make sure that right off the bat in your query letter that your tone is matching your work itself. So, you know, anything that you're writing, you want to reflect your larger work. So we can go to the next slide, actually.
The next slide. Okay, Here we go. Pacing.
Yeah, so it just flows as pacing is. So it's the rate in which the narrative unfolds for the reader. So in this case, in the query letter itself, you need to have a certain pacing. So the whole idea is that you want an agent to read more of your work. So I like to tell authors, the back flap of a book jacket or a quick summary. So you want to read as many of those as you can. You can get the idea of the type of pacing that is needed for the query letter, because as agents get all of those queries in, literally there might be 50 to 100 in just one day. So you want to entice them to read more, and that's all that pacing does. So we can go ahead to the next slide. And that's the narrative voice. So the narrative voice is obviously the storyteller, whether it be the author in a work of nonfiction or the protagonist in a work of fiction. So in your query letter itself, you need to give the agent an idea of what that narrative voice is. So a lot of times where query letters fail, when I'm reading them, the narrative voice just does not match the work itself. So it just doesn't make sense. So 100 in just one day. It ebbs and flows. Sometimes you only get a few a day, but like right after the holidays, or there's pitches on Twitter, you get a lot in the inbox. But yeah, there's quite a few to go through.
Okay, and we're down to the next one, which is, I think we skipped one. Here we go. Theme.
Yep, the theme. So your theme is very, very important and essential. So it's the main idea of your work. It's the message that you want to leave for the reader, and you want your reader to be left with an emotion. So whatever you need to do to convey that in your work, you also need to convey a little bit of that in the query letter itself. So and the next slide, we're going to be talking about stakes, and I can't stress this enough.
Can I ask a question about that, though?
Oh, sure. Yep.
Yeah, let me ask you a question, because I think this is a big thing that most authors struggle with. As far as getting that theme, do you want that right up front, or where kind of are you looking for that to kind of smack you in the face?
That's a great question. So that can differ depending on what type of work you're doing. So for a nonfiction piece, that can be right up in the beginning paragraph. You can just have a one sentence about, this is who I am, this is why I queried you, this is why I'm my work that I'm presenting. So in a work of fiction, that can be in the second or third paragraph down.
Okay, perfect.
So right at the basically in your first page, on your first page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I have another question. Not that I'm going to query you, Jessica, but I've seen plenty of query letters myself. So, how long should a query letter be? Where is it that it's too long and you're just like, I'm done reading this? Is there a specific size, or you can go on 5-6 pages? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, no. 5-6 pages, no. So it really should only be 1 to 2 pages. So a work of fiction really should just be 1 page. Even if you're writing an epic fantasy that's over 100,000 words, there is a formula structure to what a query letter should have. So you're going to have your greeting, you're going to have the opening paragraph, you're going to have your log line, the pitch, the summary. It can all be in that same paragraph, and then an author bio. But in a nonfiction query letter, it can be up to 2 pages, and obviously it can be even 3 pages if the person has extensive expertise in a certain area and that's what they're writing about. But it really shouldn't be longer than 1 to 3 pages.
Okay, so to be kind of like the average.
Yeah. So I would say 1 to 2 pages would be the average.
And what about, because I've heard about font size. Does it really matter? I hear not too little of a font size, because you guys are reading all day long. You want to make it easy on the person that's picking up your query letter. Does that really matter that much as far as the actual formatting, the paragraph indent, the spaces between paragraph, the font size? Is that important at the end?
You know what? That's a great question. So a lot of queries now, a lot of agencies have moved over to Query Tracker. I don't know if we'll be talking about that later, but it gives you just a text box basically to copy and paste a query letter from Word. So it really doesn't give you room to format, if that makes sense. But
Right.
it should always be at least 12, standard Times New Roman, 12-point font, or something like that. But yeah, if it is too small, it does hurt your eyes. So you want to make it easier on whoever's reading.
I know from working in publishing too.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and no fancy, right? Like you just want the straight facts. Like you don't need anything fancy to like stand out. Yeah.
Although I am a fan of Garamond, I do like that one. It's very pretty, but yeah.
Easy on the eyes, people. Easy on the eyes. Okay. So we'll go back to the PowerPoint. I don't remember where we were, but I think at stakes.
This is so super important because, there quiet books where there's just like a slice of life happening. Those are great. They still have to have stakes though. It's a story. Things need to happen. They have to have a beginning, a middle, a peak to the middle and an end. So if nothing's happening, we've got to get excited about the work, or there's got to be some event that it keeps moving forward. So when I worked as a freelance editor, and even with my my authors that I work with, we just always should be moving the story forward. If things aren't moving forward, it needs to get cut. And that's a whole nother show in and of itself, like editing. But yeah, no, stakes are extremely important.
So we're done with stakes. So story structure's up right now.
Yep. So, you want to, in your query letter, it's a preview of your work, right? So you want to make sure that whoever is reading it, whether it's an agent or editor, that they're aware of what's going to happen in your actual story. So, you need to be mindful of the voice, first person, third person, past tense, present tense, however that's going to work. If you have dual point of view, you need to be introducing those two characters in your query letter. If it's multiple point of view, like 3 or more, that also has to be introduced, and those would be separate paragraphs. So that would be a longer query letter if you're having multiple characters in a work of fiction. But that's very important that it mimics your actual story. There's a lot of queries that I've gotten that I like them separately, but they don't match, which that's a red flag as an agent. That's very important to be mindful of.
Can we bring those up? Bianca, we're up. Okay. The must-haves.
Yeah, we got them.
Looks good. So your must-haves. So your query letter is a business letter. It's you don't write it in the point of view of your character. It's coming from you, the author. So no matter if it's a work of fiction or nonfiction, you have the date, the greeting. Don't ever put dear blank agent, dear agent this, agent that. So I mean, you do have to personalize it a little bit. Make sure you're spelling the agent's name correctly. Then you want your opening. You want to either go straight into your work, the query itself. You want to, if you even like tonight, if anyone decides to query me, you can put that. I saw you on Storyrocket Live. I think that this book would be to your liking. Here it is, and go right into the pitch. But if you don't, if you've never met the agent, you can look up their manuscript wish list, research them a little bit, make sure you taste match. You can just mention that in a few words. It doesn't have to be huge. And then, you go into your paragraphs, you want to make sure that, you have your author bio as well. So I'll go into the don'ts for that. So you absolutely need the genre. You need to know what the genre is, because an agent needs to be able to pitch your work to editors. So if you're unclear, or if you say this book is for everyone, no book is for everyone. Not everyone is going to like it. That's just that's how it is. So so you want the genre, you want the word count, and you want to absolutely put a pick and comps if they work. If they don't, that's okay. So you always make sure that you you don't ignore submission guidelines. If an agent, so for instance, I only take queries through Query Manager that's up on the Metamorphosis website. I still get emails with queries. That just shows that someone's not really doing their research or not following directions, and that automatically, mistakes happen, but it's in a lot of places that you should be aware of what you're doing that shows you can't follow directions. I may not want to work with someone who can't follow directions. So just something to keep in mind. Certainly if people do take queries via email, you certainly do not want to CC 20 agents in the same email or put in a CC line. It takes very, and that has happened.
It does happen.
It takes about a minute to just put dear Jess, dear somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't take the time to do that, you might be difficult to work with. So, just be mindful of that. And if you're using comps, some agents do feel differently. I don't think you need comps. You do need to know where your work falls, but certain titles, you don't have to have that in a query letter. I would still request more work if it's not there. But if you are using comp titles, they need to be within the last 5 years. They do have to be recent. But you could also use movies or TV shows for, an idea of how it would be placed. So certain things, this just came to mind. I just had a query where the movie Goonies, how old is that movie? So, but it's amazing. It's a great movie. Everyone knows what that is, that group, that friendship, the mystery. So that gives me an idea of what that book is about. That's an okay thing to use, as long as you use another current comp. So those are all the things that you would need for your query. So yes, Danielle, we're going to go into your query.
Yeah, can I ask you a quick question first, though?
Absolutely.
It's something that I know a lot of people do, and having worked with other agents, this was a big thing, is that most agents don't want you, if you're a first-time writer, comparing yourself to the largest book in your genre. How do you feel about that?
I agree with that because, for the most part, there are always, exceptions to the rule, but it just shows that maybe you're not reading completely in your genre, because if you only know that, that one big book, you need to be, to be a good writer, you need to read a lot.
Yes.
So, so if, and certain comparative titles, sorry, I misspoke there, but they don't necessarily even need to be within your genre. Maybe it's the group of characters are similar to some other characters in a well-known book. You can comp different things, so that's mostly why agents don't like that. But that was a great question.
Okay, good. So I think we're moving on. You wanted to use my little query letter as an example.
Yes, is that okay? We'll just use snippets.
It's totally fine.
Do you have it there?
I don't, but you can. I can see.
Okay,
so go for
no worries.
it.
I'm gonna pull it up.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So I am just going to use just the first couple lines, Danielle, so don't worry. So Danielle, I have to tell you, every time I read your query letter, I just fall in love with the project even more. So
I love that.
Yeah, no, it was so well done. And I think for, your viewers, it's very important. So Danielle queried me with a nonfiction project, and it's amazing. Everyone needs to read it. We're gonna find a nice home for it soon. I just feel it. But she just from the very beginning, and I'll just read you the first sentence, and it encompasses everything that I've already talked about. So Danielle, is that okay if I read the first sentence?
Go for it. Yes, go for it. Whatever you want to use.
Sure. So she has, she did the greeting properly, dear Ms. Reino. You can say dear Jess, dear Jessica, that's fine. But that's fine too. Ms. Reino's fine. So her very first sentence, she says, seldom is the fine line between autobiographical experience, philosophy, psychology, and motivational life lessons collectively woven into a self-help, self-improvement, motivational book. So I'm just going to stop that right there. So within that's not even the complete full sentence. She has told me what her book is about, what I am to expect, and she has set up I want to read more. I want to see what all that's about. Then she goes on in that same sentence to say that it's geared to catapult the reader to actually get their life together. And then she says, until now. So that first sentence, I was like, wow, yes, I want to know how to get my life together. I want to read more. So this is great. And then she goes on to say, talk about the other books in the genre, like Rachel Hollis, but she also mentioned how her book is different and where it should come out on the bookshelf. So it could sit alongside of those books because she takes it one step further. So I just absolutely loved it. So, and I love, in a nonfiction project, you are close to your subject. You are either, an expert in it, you have a background in it, or it's something that's important to you. So in Danielle's query, that absolutely came out. So I loved, Danielle, is that okay if I share the second paragraph?
Yeah, you can use whatever you want out of it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and this is what I mean. So she says, storyteller Danielle A. Van was used to being the one who asked the thought-provoking questions as a former journalist turned novelist. But when the tables were turned, she was faced with a life-altering question of her own. Can you name everyone you love? Asked before a live audience, those simple words seemed innocent enough until the answer rapidly revealed potent insights and set Van off on an epic, life-changing audit to get her own life together. But can 6 words truly redirect the trajectory of a life? Hell yes, they can. And I was all in after that. I was like, yes, that is awesome. I love it. And then her third paragraph, she goes right into it. What it is, the word count, the genre, and what she is planning on doing. And she follows it up with her background, her expertise. And I was like, yes, get this woman on the phone. I need to represent her right now.
And here we are, folks. And yes, here we are.
And now I get to fun with you, so that's fun too.
I know. It's so much fun. Yes, I love it. I think that a lot of people, especially new authors, they get the book done, and I think we've talked about this a little bit. They get the book done and then they go, okay, now what? Or they try to go the self-publishing route and they just really don't realize that there's so much marketing to this. Do you feel like the query letter is really the first step in moving forward, period?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great question. Yeah, because a lot of authors that I've worked with, even with the bigger publishing houses now, a lot more marketing falls to the author. So
right.
You do have to be able to pitch your book consistently. So it really is a good gauge of how someone is going to work, where they see their own work. And another thing I wanted to mention too is a lot of times there is nothing wrong with being a first-time author. If you have no publication credits, there is nothing wrong with that. And I do see a lot of, self-deprecation in those like, oh, I only did this, or I'm only part of the writing group. But that's amazing. Yeah. Everyone starts somewhere. So I never like to see people putting themselves down in the query letters, but you need to take it seriously. So if you don't have any publication credits, that's fine. In your bio, you can say you're a member of a group, you do a critique group, or you're a member of an organization, and that's just as good. But yeah, that's an important factor.
Right. Yeah. So we have another part of our show, and I thank you so much for all of that information. I know that the authors out there, it's huge. Such good information. We are going to take a very short little break so that we can reboot and bring our new part of our segment up. And it is 3 live pitches with 3 authors that really have earned this. They're number 1 in their genre. Happens to be genres that Jessica does actually represent, and they're going to get a chance to pitch live to Jessica and get some feedback. So give us just a second and we'll be right back with you.
Guys, we're back and ready to start our pitches. The first pitch is from CJ Peterson. She is the #1 most seen author on Storyrocket. She will be pitching her book, Seasons of Change with over 2,000 views. This is a YA novel with Christian fiction and with a lot of action. Her logline reads, having survived multiple tornadoes that hit her Oklahoma town, the danger for 17-year-old Katie McKenna wasn't what was going on outside the home, but inside. Hers has not been an easy life, surviving the loss of her mother at age 7 and walking on eggshells in hope of not triggering her father's abuse. Katie is living on the edge in survival mode, determined to make it through to escape to college. Struggling to overcome her circumstances, Katie had only 2 choices in life: push forward, making her heart stronger than ever, or forever being known as the Ice Queen.
So here we go. I will set the timer, okay? And you have 90 seconds. I don't know if they're going to be able. Bianca, can you bring Jessica up full screen with CJ, please? And I will set the timer. Hopefully Bianca can hear us. And we are going to set it. 1 second.
Sure. Hi, I'd like to introduce you to Katie McKenna. Katie grew up in a small town in Oklahoma. Like most towns, of course, they had their fair share of their scary and sometimes even deadly tornadoes. For Katie, though, it wasn't what was going on the outside of the house as much as it was more scary going on the inside. You see, her house was enveloped in darkness at age 7 when Katie lost her mother to leukemia. Her father didn't know how to process the pain, the loss, the hurt, the anger, so he did what he could to drown out what he could in alcohol, and everything else he took out on Katie. Katie stayed, though, because she knew all she had to do was to survive to the end of high school and get away to college, and she would be able to escape that area. One light in her life growing up was her best friend and neighbor since birth, Ryan Darcy. He was like the brother she never had. He even held her hand at the funeral. He was her light up until about high school, when Ryan's friends gave him a choice of either being friends with Katie or them. Unfortunately for Katie, he chose them, and she was alone once again with her secrets. Resolved to not let anybody get too close to her anymore until the end of high school, she pushed forward. Then her senior year, Jax came into town. He was smart, he was cute, he was witty, he was fun, and he had a healthy interest in Katie, and she in him. She had found her first true love, and that was a new light in her life. Unfortunately, a devastating accident took that light away from her on prom night. She was cut off from her friends and her family, cut off from her friends due to injuries, with one goal in mind: get out and start over in college. Abuse affects many in our world. I'm one of them. As a domestic violence survivor. Oh, I was so close.
So I do. So that was great. It is always hard to pitch your work, even on paper. So, I mean, even on this platform, you did a great job. So you should be proud of yourself.
Thank you.
So, I think you did a great job talking about stakes, the characters. But I think maybe to help you in the next pitch, that you could go right into the crux of what was going on. Maybe you want to introduce Jax first, or Ryan first, and then you can do a little bit of her backstory of why she wants to get out of town, so you don't have to spend so much time on her father, because if I'd say the meat and potatoes of the story is her needing to get out, probably because of what happened with Jax, or that's her catalyst to move forward. So if you focus your pitch on that and then weave in that backstory with just a little bit, spend less time on the dad, you will be golden.
Right. The reason I did on the dad, I'm not disputing that, is the fact that that's the reason she needs to get out of town, because he was abusing her.
So
it
was great.
Kind of go hand in hand. So I hope that came across.
It definitely did. Nope, it definitely did.
But thank you so much. I will definitely put those notes. Thank you so much.
You did a great job.
Excellent, CJ. Thank you so much. Up next is the second pitch from author-screenwriter Brian Fitzpatrick from Anaheim, California. His book, Metcraft, is the #1 project in the sci-fi and thriller genre on Storyrocket. His pitch package has over 973 views. His logline reads, "A teen singularity is hunted by relentless enemies for his shape-shifting nanotech ability. It's The Matrix meets Harry Potter.
What would the world be like for an unsuspecting teenager if a swarm of shape-shifting nanotechnology awoke within his DNA and obeyed his every command? In Metcraft, 15-year-old Jake London's ideal life is thrown into chaos when the mysterious nanotech reveals itself. Telepathically connected to this tech, Jake learns to summon liquid metal through his pores and with it create any object he can possibly imagine. But he's not alone. A secret world in Los Angeles opens itself up to him, revealing a hidden society of Metcrafters, all having gained their ability through a rigorous injection process funded by a secret government organization. Disagreements among the best use of Metcraft fractured the initial team, leading to all-out war, leaving behind three factions vying for dominance over the fate of humankind. Being the first person born with the nanotech, Jake finds himself caught sent up as each believes his uniqueness will be the wild card power to deliver victory. Now, with two young Metcraft agents, Bex and Trent, escorting him and a horde of enemies chasing them down, Jake finds himself in a desperate race to safety, battling through. Oh, so close!
So great.
I had kind of a false start. I think I hit myself hard with the false start there.
Only thing that maybe you might want to add or weave in, I would like to get a sense of when in time this is happening. Is this like post-apocalyptic? Is this like current time, or with this nanotechnology? So that would just be something that I would personally want to hear about, what type of world you're setting. But it sounds amazing. You did a great job.
It is modern day Los Angeles.
Perfect. Okay.
Nice job, Brian. Thank you. Okay, guys, and now we go to the third and final pitch of our show. It comes from one of our international members. Her name is Andrea Mershak, and she's from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Her book, Crowley's Cult, is the #1 project in the mystery genre and the #2 book in horror. This pitch package has over 1,148 views. Her logline reads, "To escape from a stalker, a renowned painter and his fiancée find sanctuary in a historic apartment building with a macabre background. But Zane's presence there unleashes a dark shadow from the past, and the couple finds themselves thrown into a world where violent death, bizarre rituals, and satanic orgies become their new reality."
Hi, I'm Andrea Merchek, and I'm here to pitch my novels Crowley's Cult. The story was inspired by a dark religion created 100 years ago by the occultist Alice Crowley. Think Rosemary's Baby meets The Sentinel with a touch of 50 Shades of Grey, but much, much grayer. The story begins with Zane, a handsome and famous surrealistic painter, trying to get away from a dangerous erotic stalker. Then Zane's childhood friend convinces him to move into a landmark building with a macabre, spooky history. And these friends also introduce him to a group of wealth neighbors who are all of them part of an evil cult. And then it's when art meets horror and the story. Real artists become secondary characters as the works influences Zane's art and the events that are occurring. Zane's presence unleashes a dark shadow from the past. The mystery of Zane's role in the cult is slowly being revealed as he is drawn into a world of violent deaths, bizarre rituals, and satanic orgies. That's it. I think I
I was going to say that was great, and I loved that, you use the comps right away, and like I was saying, you use movies and books, and it just really tied it together. So in my mind, as you were talking, I could totally place where to put that. So great job on that. The only thing I would mention is I was wondering when in time this took place. Like, is this supposed to be historical? Is this present day? So that was really the only thing that I would have a question on, but you did a really great job.
Yes, it's present day. Yes, it's
Okay.
trying to cut things because I was a little worried since I said that's based a culture that a dark religion that Crowley created 100 years ago. So in my mind, it was just I was just saying that it was present day. But you're right. I should say it.
Yeah, no, you did. It was
Yeah.
great. You did a really great job.
Thank you.
Jessica, where would someone query you?
On the submissions tab, there's a link to my query manager, and I am always on Twitter. So if you forgot or something, just hit me up on Twitter. I love talking to authors. I love helping everyone out. So yeah, I'd love to connect with everyone. This is great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Jessica.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't know if you guys heard me. I was literally left out of the show. Those things happen live broadcast. And thank you so much, Danielle, because you took over everything and you did it in such a superb way as usual.
Thank you.
Jessica, if you're still there, you're going to see us. I don't see you right now, but we do something called Storyrocket Love, which is the triangle for the rocket, and it turns into a heart, and we throw it your way. Jessica, thank you so much. We also sent Storyrocket Love to the 3 people who pitched tonight. I think they were all awesome. CJ Peterson, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Andrea Mershak from Rio de Janeiro. Thank you, Andrea, too. And I also want to do and say a big thank you to behind the scenes, to Vlad with the graphics, Bianca with the controls, Ron at the helm with the Facebook Live, our programmers. I mean, everyone that puts this thing together. It's not easy. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Danielle, so much for taking over the show. And I hope people watched. We're going to edit this down, and it's going to be sent through our email list of thousands of people from around the world. We got a message today from France, one of our members from France, saying, please send me the link. It's 3 a.m. for me. I won't be able to watch live, but we're excited to bring this much value to the table. Thank you, Jessica. We couldn't have done it without you and all the pictures. Thank you.
Thank you.
Storyrocket Love. I see one message before we go. Jock Shrook. I don't know what Jock Shrook is, but he's saying this was wonderful. Thank you all. And we'll see you next month in the next Storyrocket Live. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.